Today, a single case Frontiers report on high-dose psilocybin in advanced Alzheimer's disease. An 80-year-old woman with 10 years of Alzheimer's disease and 5 years of near silence. Then, 19 hours after a single supervised high dose of psilocybin-containing mushrooms, she spontaneously began talking about her life for about 4 hours. Over the next week she walked, dressed herself, regained bladder control, and recognized family members. The case is real, the peer review is real, and the caveats are very real. Here is what was actually reported, and why it is not yet a treatment. The patient was an octogenarian Japanese-American woman with a 10-year course of Alzheimer's disease, including 5 years of predominantly monosyllabic speech, chronic incontinence, executive dysfunction, dysphagia, dependent mobility, and flat affect. The intervention was a single supervised oral dose of 5 grams of psilocybin-containing mushrooms of the Enigma strain. 1 month later, a second supervised 3-gram dose was given. The setting was a private clinical practice in São Paulo, Brazil, with consent from the legal guardian. The acute phase was marked by suspected hypothermia, profuse sweating, and a prolonged deep sleep-like state. About 19 hours in, the patient spontaneously began autobiographical speech, lasting several hours. Day 1, increased alertness and family recognition. Day 2, independent ambulation. Days 2 to 3, she dressed herself with spontaneous initiative, and her diapers were dry, including overnight, after 5 years of chronic incontinence. Days 6 to 7, she asked where a family member had gone, and she correctly identified the car, plus sustained eye contact and reciprocal smiling. How would a single dose do this? The leading hypothesis runs through the serotonin 2A receptor. Psilocybin's active metabolite, psilocin, is a potent agonist at 5-HT2 receptors, which are densely expressed in cortical pyramidal neurons. Activation produces transient cortical desynchronization and disruption of the default mode network, the brain's self-referential baseline. Preclinical work shows psychedelics can promote dendritic growth and synaptic remodeling. In a brain with advanced neurodegeneration, transient desynchronization may, speculatively, unmask residual functional capacity that the disease has silenced but not destroyed. Now the caveats. This is a single case. There is no control, no comparator, no blinding. The diagnosis of Alzheimer's was clinical, not biomarker-confirmed. There is no advanced neuroimaging, no quantitative EEG, no polysomnography, and no standardized cognitive scoring. The acute phase was characterized by clinically suspected hypothermia, but exact temperature measurements were not available. The 5-gram dose is high relative to the 25 milligram synthetic psilocybin dose used in modern clinical trials, and the Enigma strain has above-average potency. Causality cannot be established. Spontaneous fluctuations in advanced Alzheimer's cannot be excluded. So what is this case, and what is it not? It is a detailed observational description of a single supervised intervention in a private practice with measurable functional change in one patient. It is not a clinical trial. It is not a treatment. It is not a cure. It is not a recommendation for unsupervised use. The authors themselves conclude the findings do not imply disease reversal. They suggest residual functional capacity may persist in late-stage neurodegeneration and may become transiently accessible under specific neuromodulatory conditions. That is a hypothesis for future investigation, not a clinical protocol for tomorrow. Bottom line. A single Frontiers case report describes transient, multidomain functional improvement in advanced Alzheimer's disease after a supervised high-dose psilocybin intervention. It is the lowest tier of clinical evidence, but it is methodologically honest, and it raises a real question for the field. For residents and trainees, the take-home is methodologic, not therapeutic. A striking outcome in one patient is not a treatment. Watch for biomarker-confirmed early-stage trials in the coming years. Full breakdown is on Psychiatry. For questions or episode ideas, drop them below and subscribe for more psychopharmacology breakdowns. Educational purposes only, not a substitute for clinical judgment.